it said that up to 80% of the world took part in the scamdemic. And when I say took part, I mean actually believing in the scamdemic up to the point of, taking the poison dart, with 20% being non-conformers who actually question things and use their critical thinking skills, knowing skeptical about everything that was being said in the media. So what can we learn from what lessons can we learn from what happened during this pandemic? Well, one of the first lessons we can learn is that most people are cowards. That most people will do whatever the authorities tell them to do, and even go to the extent of obeying the TV, obeying their pastors, even if their pastors are doing things that God hasn't told us to do, obeying their denominations in general, and obeying the World Health Organization and Bill Gates, and all those who are promoting the idea behind the pandemic, which there's actually never been a pandemic, a real pandemic here on this earth. Pandemics don't happen, okay, especially worldwide pandemics. So just going back to the 80% who conformed, they did that largely because of fear, because most of them were scared that if they didn't, take part in what was going on, like I already said, to the extent of taking the poke, that they were going to lose their jobs. Recently, I think about 2 months ago or so, I came into contact with this young man. He's actually a gardener who works not very far from where I live, and he told me what happened to him during this pandemic. He said that his former employer, who was in South Africa, because a lot of Zimbabweans actually work in South Africa, but they have homes here as well. So this young man was a gardener working, at the home of this Zimbabwean who was actually working in South Africa. And this young man told me that his employer actually said that he needed to take the poison dart because the employer didn't want this young man to spread the virus to others. And this young man actually went and got the first poke. He said he never took the second one. And I explained to him that there's actually something called bodily sovereignty, where no one can tell you what to do with your own body. But I'm just saying that to show that, remember I said that a few minutes ago, I said most of the conformers conformed or took part because they were scared of losing their jobs. Some of them were scared of getting sick, and some were scared of dying. Those are the three main reasons why most people took the poke. Just going back to being afraid, those who are afraid of losing their jobs. Of course, if you lose your job, you then lose your ability to pay your mortgage, to pay you pay off your car if you bought it on finance, to buy groceries, to buy fuel, to pay for your Wi-Fi, to pay for your school fees or exam fees, and to buy clothing, the general things that we need in life. It's the issue of fear caused many people around the world to take part in this pandemic without even questioning it. And unfortunately, some learned when it was already too late that the whole thing was a hoax, and some of them had even taken, the poison darts, maybe once or twice, and some of them several times. But there are some still who are still asleep right now, who are still going about, actually going to take. They're still taking more pokes up to now. And some of them will even go on social media to report that they've been sick after taking the poke several times. But yeah, what else can we learn from the scamdemic? one of the other things we can learn is that religious leaders, including pastors and bishops and those in higher positions in various denominations and religions, that they can't be trusted because they align themselves with the World Health Organization, and they align themselves with the governments of their countries, whatever countries they were from, in suppressing the God-given rights of those who didn't want to take part. For instance, in the Seventh Day Adventist Church, there was a bit of a polarization that happened during the Scamdemic. There were some who didn't want to take part in the Scamdemic because they understood that taking the vaccine was not really within God's will, because some of the vaccines actually contain tissue from aborted fetuses and from pigs and from monkeys, things that we should not be putting in our bodies. But actually what happened is that when those Seventh-day Adventists who didn't want to take part in the Scamdemic asked for exemption letters so that they would not be pressured or forced into taking the vaccine, they were denied letters from their pastors and from the denomination in general. So most pastors in the SDA Church basically sold out and aligned themselves with the policy or position of the denomination. Yeah, so just going back to the issue of being in fear, there's a text that I've referred to many times because I think it's very applicable in many situations. In this case, we're talking about fearfulness and fearing. The conformers feared losing their jobs or being sick or dying. In Revelation 21. We have a group, we've got several groups of people that are mentioned, but the first group that's mentioned is the fearful, and then it mentions the abominable and whoremongers and liars and all that. It says basically these groups of people that are mentioned shall have their part in the lake of fire. So it's not good to be fearful. That's why the Bible says many times that we should not be fearful. Fear not, or do not be afraid. It says that several times. So, yeah. What else can we learn from the Scamdemic? There are many lessons we can learn, but something else we can learn is that the conformers were willing to kill those who disagreed with them. Perhaps some of you have forgotten some of the things that were said to the nonconformers, but I remember it very clearly. One of the shocking statements that were made was that the nonconformers, especially those who were refusing to get the vaccine, because remember it was said that if everybody took the vaccine, we could go back to normal. But it was said that those who were refusing to take the poison darts should be lined up and put before firing squads and killed because they were refusing to take the vaccine. There are many such statements or similar statements that were made during the Scamdemic. It just shows that human nature doesn't change, because we have seen these kind of scenarios happen, whether it be in Nazi Germany, where there were many who sold others out for the sake of being able to live, and perhaps in the future they will have a different scenario in which the conformers will sell out the non-conformers. It looks like people never really learn from past experiences, and it has been said many times, those who forget their history are bound to repeat it. We seem to be repeating history in that we want those who disagree with us to be hurt, just for the simple fact that we want to have a nice, easy life, instead of even we, especially as Christians, we should be willing to stand up for what is right, including giving others the right to disagree with us, even if we think they are wrong. So even in the case of the Scamdemic, if someone wants to go and get several poison darts, that's their right to do that, even if we believe that what they're doing is wrong. Everyone has got the right to the freedom of choice and to the freedom to express themselves freely, but we seem to deny others that right when we think somehow it's affecting us. So something else maybe that a lesson that we can learn from the Scamdemic is that there are some people that think that truth is based on consensus, that if the majority of people believe something, then it makes it true. So for instance, in the Scamdemic, we had the media that were pumping out propaganda, and the media was saying this. I think almost all media outlets, except for the independent ones, were saying the same thing. And this went to the extent where the conformers believed that everybody had to take the poison darts, otherwise the poison darts wouldn't work, which doesn't even make sense. Basically, it's like everyone around the world had to take the vaccine, otherwise it wouldn't work, which goes back to the issue of trying to force others to do things that they do not believe to be right. So I think that's a very dangerous position to take. That if you think that in the case of a Scamdemic, that the Scamdemic won't go away unless everyone takes the vaccine. That means you'd be willing to kill those who do not take the vaccine, which I've already addressed when I spoke about those who said that the non-conformers who refuse to take the jab should be lined up and shot before firing squads. There were some who called for the so-called anti-vaxxers or the non-conformers to be put in prison, to be punished in different ways, that their kids shouldn't be allowed to go to school. Yeah, so all those are things that happened during this pandemic. But I think for those who know what's really going on and understand that this pandemic was really about population reduction and transhumanism, especially those two things. Stand up for what is right and true. We've still got stuff going on in the background to do with the Scamdemic. It hasn't totally gone away. But if it's to happen again, stand up for what you believe to be right, and don't put yourself in a position where you compromise your own beliefs, or go against your conscience, or go against God's word, just for the sake of fitting in, or for the sake of having a job and being able to pay your mortgage and do your shopping and things like that. Stand up for what is right. Like it's said in the song, "Dare to be a Daniel." Even if you lose everything, pray to God to give you the strength to do what is right. Don't be a conformer. So perhaps there are other things I could have mentioned that happened during this pandemic from which we can learn from. But yeah, those are the things that came to mind. And I hope that's been helpful to you. But my greatest wish, or the thing I wanted to bring out, is not only the lessons that we can learn from this pandemic, but we also need to do what's pleasing to God, even if this is to a similar situation is to arise. It might not necessarily be another scamdemic that comes up in the future. It could be a different scenario. We don't know what's been cooked up. There are evil men and women who meet in secretly to decide what should happen in the earth. These Bilderberg meetings and the World Economic Forum meetings, and the Knights of Malta and the Knights of Columbus, and especially the Jesuits. They meet to discuss what the agenda is for the world in the coming months and years. So I was just saying, whatever scenario comes up, we should not compromise and do that which is not pleasing to God, because God will judge us based on our actions and whether we have been obedient to Him. So stand firm, do what is right, do what you know. Don't go against your conscience or the Bible. Do what is right, and in the end we shall all be rewarded according to what we've done. So yeah, let me end the video there, and I hope it's been of help to you, and I'll see you in the next one.